Okay. Then you and Harry O were locked up together.
Yep.
How long were you guys locked up in the same prison?
We stayed cellies for about. I think I stayed in MDC for about a year at that time that we were together. I wasn't cellies with him the whole time though. I was cellies with Bo for a couple months, and then Harry. After I left both cell, I went straight to Harry. Me and Harry were cellies after that.
Okay. And while you guys were cellies, was he still involved in Death Row Records, or was that at the point that
when I moved in the cell, that it wasn't no Death Row?
This was before.
This was before Death Row, yeah.
Right, because I remember you talked about how you potentially, could have been an investor in Death Row, but he jumped on it. And you told him, if you're not going to do it, I'm going to do it.
Well, no, that was Dr. Dre.
Oh, that was Dre.
That was Dr. Dre. Yeah, Harry was doing Lydia's album when I got there. He was already working on Lydia's album, and when he was doing it, Harry used to get all the magazines in the cell, like everything, every magazine that you could imagine. He had them coming in, and I started going through the magazines, and I saw in one of the magazines that Dre and Eazy wasn't getting along, and they were saying that Dre was having some financial troubles in the article. So I told Harry, I said, why don't you let Dre produce Lydia? Now you're gonna have a hit on your hands, and Dre need the money. And I told him that if he didn't want to get Dre some money, that I was gonna give him some money. And Harry just took over the whole situation.
Yeah, and that eventually became Death Row Records.
Yeah, well, he went from there because he didn't know Dre. I didn't know Dre. Neither one of us really knew how to get in touch with Dre at that time. And you're working from jail, so your phone is not, it's not like the phones you got here. Where you just get on and call all day long. We had ways that we manipulated to get on the phone longer, but really you only had 15 minutes on the phone.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So you had to work those 15 minutes. Every minute that you was on the phone, you had to be working. So eventually he found Ron Brown, who knew Suge, and that's how the connection came together.
Right. And, you mentioned the whole phone thing. I remember I interviewed the former president of Solar Records. And the whole thing was there was a phone in the studio that was specifically for Harry O.
You talking about Dick Griffey?
Yeah. Well, no, it was Dick Griffey at the time, but then Virgil Roberts.
Yeah, I know Virgil.
You know who that is? Right.
Yeah, I know Virgil.
Right. So I interviewed Virgil Roberts, and we talked about, when Death Row was in Solar Records studios at the time, and there was a phone that was specifically designed for Harry O to call, and no one was allowed to call it or use that phone. Yeah. And then these producers got on the phone when Suge told them to get off. They said, hold on, I'm going to finish. And then Suge ended up basically pulling out a pistol. And
we get a phone bill from the studio floor that was something like, I want to say $8,000 for a month.
Okay.
So Griffey calls Suge in, and he says, look at this bill. This is ridiculous. If you can't get those knuckleheads down there to stop using the phone, I'm going to throw you out. So that night, Suge comes into the building, goes up to the third floor, and one of the Stanley brothers was on the phone. And I wasn't there, so this is what was reported to me, that he asked the guy to get off the phone. And he said, and I think the Stanley brothers had been part of the world-class wrecking crew. And they were actually there to try and get Dre, who by then is becoming known as a hit producer, to do something for them. And so he tells Suge, he didn't know who Suge really was. He said, hey, look, I'm want to get Dre's guest. Go talk to him. And Suge said, I don't talk to him. I run this. He said, man, go, leave me alone. So Suge apparently goes out, goes back downstairs to his car, gets a gun, comes back, puts the gun to his head, and says, motherfucker, I told you to get off the phone. So then he hangs up the phone, and Suge takes him into the major room. We had the studio, we had a big, it was a big studio, because we we constructed it in the days when you made records with musicians. And so, you know, in the olden days, if you want to do a string date, you would bring in the string section from the LA Philharmonic, and that's how you do string overdubs and stuff. So we had a studio that was big enough to accommodate all those. So Suge brings him into the studio and has everybody, you know, people from the rehearsal. He said, I want you all to come in here. And he said, this is what's going to happen if you use that phone. And so he tells the guy, take off his clothes. And he says, I'm not taking off my clothes. So then he shoots the gun he has by the guy's ear.
You know, pistol whipping him.
I heard about that. I heard about that incident. I didn't know that was there, though.
That was there.
It was there?
Yep.
Yeah, I know. I went and saw, you know, when I got out, Dick took me through and showed me, you know, how he had helped Suge get on. And you know, he was mad at Suge because he negotiated that deal with Interscope for Suge. Mm-hmm. And he felt that Suge and them crossed him out on the deal because he felt that he should have been. Those are some of the guys that Dick is one of the guys the reason that I probably wasn't the king of hip hop. Mm. He's one of the guys that talked me out of hip hop.
Right. I remember I interviewed Teray, the journalist, mm-hmm. and he went to go interview Suge at Death Row, and he had like a little portable, you know, tape recorder, you know, back then, and you know he's doing the interview and Suge is answering all the questions, and he's like, "So what's up with the Dick Griffey lawsuit?" And that's when everything went left. He was saying how like one of Suge's guys came in, like he was around like a pit bull, was like, this motherfucker talking about lawsuits. Like, what? You know, like Suge's like, hold on.
Yeah, you don't want to hear that.
You don't want to hear that. He's like, and he made Teray redo the entire interview and answer the questions exactly the same.
And take
without you know, basically erase everything and redo the whole interview. But he said he answered the questions exactly the same every time. Suge was actually very smart, from what I understand. You know,
well, I didn't really get to kick it with Suge. When I got out in '93, I didn't know that Suge and Harry O was beefing. And my guy used to run Soul Train, Reggie Rutherford, you know, mm-hmm. Rest in peace, he died last year. So Reggie called me and say, hey, Suge and Snoop and Jermaine Dupri is here on the set. You need to come down and holler at him. So I shoot down and I'm rapping to him, and Suge remembers me from jail. You know, when he used to come and visit Harry, we all be in the same room and we all be talking. So, you know, he's like, oh man, come on man, let's get together, let's do it. I heard you doing the theater, and was really open-armed. But then I get a call from Harry, like, hey man, back up off dude. You know, don't mess with dude. You know, so
because they were beefing.
I didn't know. He didn't tell me that they was beefing or nothing like that. But I respected his wish, you know, because, you know, that's how we'd always, you know, did. Like, I ain't gonna be stepping on your toes, don't step on my toes. And I respected that. But I only wonder what would have happened if I would have went on and started working with Suge. You know, from that day, I might have not even went back to jail in '93, you know, when they set me up. Mm-hmm. But me and Suge was always cool. You know, I never had no beefs with Suge at all.